welcome everyone. Dear audience, let me introduce to you my 6-month progress in my PhD topic, which therapeutic strategies in Clostridium as difficile infection. So a few words about me. I'm Dániel Bednárik. I'm a PhD student and a resident doctor in Heim Children's Hospital. My supervisors are Katalin Lenti and László Földvári Nagy. My SMS is Annette Rantz. My statistician is Noemi Gede. My vision: every patient should have the chance to get the best possible therapies against C. diff infection. And my mission for it: find the best possible therapies in healthcare against C. diff infection. We've got two projects now. In the first, we're comparing the effectiveness and safety of different therapies in C. diff infection in adults. And in the second one, we do the same, but in the pediatric population. So let me introduce to you my first project, comparing the effectiveness and safety of different therapies in C. diff infection in adults. So a little bit about the background. Why is it a really hot topic and a really important topic nowadays? This is the most common healthcare-associated diarrhea worldwide from 20 to 27%. According to the latest data, almost 500,000 cases in the US among adults and children were registered. And which is really important again, more than 10,000 deaths in the US were registered according to the latest data. And the incidence of relapses is around from 15 to 35%. Our aim is to find the best possible therapy. Our clinical question: which is the best therapeutic option for C. diff infection? For this, we use the PICO framework: P, adult patients with C. diff infection; I and C, any intervention given; and for outcome, the clinical resolution of C. diff-associated diarrhea, recurrency, overall survival, morbidity, and side effects. Our hypothesis: fecal microbiota transplant is the superior therapy for C. diff infection. We did our systematic search with this search key in the 3 big databases, and after the abstract and title selection and after the full text selection, we've got 111 eligible full text for the data extraction. At the end of the data extraction, we identified the 3 big outcomes: the treatment, the prevention, and the third group, those articles which check the C. diff as a secondary outcome. According to the literature, we analyzed separately the first and the recurrent cases too. And according to our articles, we've identified 2 more really important outcomes for us in the treatment group: the cure rate and the recurrency. We are doing a network meta-analysis, so you can see here our network plot. In the case of cure rate in the treatment group, you can see here how many connections there are among the different kind of therapies against C. diff infection. Every knot represents a different kind of treatment against C. diff infection. The bigger knot, and you can see here the vancomycin is the biggest, so the bigger knot means this treatment were included in more studies like the others. You can see lines and number above it. It gave us the information how many studies compared the 2 treatments. And now, related to this network, we investigated here the cure rate of different kind of therapies against C. diff infection. As a clinician, it's a really important outcome how effective our therapy is. Most of the articles gave us this outcome, by the way, as a primary outcome. We investigated 17 interventions from 25 RCTs, and there were 28 direct data comparisons and 136 possible pairwise comparisons. In this league table, the possible treatments are arranged in descending order according to P-score. In the area above the blue boxes, which are the treatments here, so in the area above the blue bar, we see the direct comparisons, while below the direct and the estimated, so the indirect ones put together. Odds ratio is given in the cells. We compare the one treatment on the left with the other on the right side, which indicates how greater the chance of recovery. So, for example, you can see in A4 a number, which means we compared here the FMT and vancomycin arm with the fidaxomicin arm. And this number gave us, there is almost 6 times higher chance of recovery in the case of FMT and vancomycin arm. The confidence interval is shown in brackets. If both elements are greater than 1, the result can be said to be significant. We mark these with green here. The results, and especially the fact FMT and vancomycin arm and the FMT alone arm are mathematically significantly better than the others, and the fact in the p-scores you can see here at the random, so the p-scores are also significantly larger like the others. It suggested for us against C. diff infection the best possible therapy, that's a fecal microbiota transplant, and maybe with vancomycin. By the way, this is consistent with our hypothesis. But for more suggestion, we have to analyze our other tables too. So till now, we are finished with the data extraction. The risk of bias assessment is ongoing. Till now, we received around 10% of our plots, and the baseline table is ongoing. So let me introduce to you my second project now. This is comparing the effectiveness and safety of different therapies in Clostridium difficile infection in pediatric patients. So a little bit about the background. It's a little bit similar like in the case of adult, but let me highlight a few really important things to you. So according to the latest data, there were around 8,000 hospitalized children who had C. diff infection in the US. And this is the point, why is it a really important topic nowadays? The number of cases are growing and growing. And let me highlight one more thing which is really important, I think. This illness is really common and really important in those children who spend a lot of time in hospital due to underlying diseases. So for them, it's really, really important to get the chance to get the best possible therapy against C. diff. So our aim is to find the best possible therapy in children. A clinical question, which is the best therapeutic option for C. diff infection? For this, we use the PICO framework again. P, children under age 18 with C. diff infection. I and C, fecal microbiota transplant or any other intervention given. And for outcome, the clinical resolution of C. diff associated diarrhea, recurrency, overall survival, morbidity, side effects. And our hypothesis, fecal microbiota transplant is the super therapy for C. diff infection in children too. We've done with our systematic search with this search key, and we've got at the end around 7,000 hits from the 3 big databases. So till now we are ready with Prosper registration and the duplicate removal, and if we got a little time next to our first project, we will continue the title and abstract selection. So for summary, we would like to finish our first project till June of this year, and the second project we would like to finish till September of this year. And in the end, a sentence from Albert St. Jordi, whatever a man does, he must do first in his mind. So thank you for your kindly attention.
I'm just thinking about your first project that would you like to analyze the mortality too as an outcome?
Really good question, thank you so much. So it's a really important thing, the mortality we gave as an outcome, and a lot of articles gave us as an outcome, but it's really surprising for us, but only a few articles gave us the direct number of mortality. So this was the reason this is not our first table here, because we have data in the case of cure rate rather than in the recurrency, but later we would like to do an analysis about mortality too. So thank you.
Thank you.
My question is whether this FMT therapy is available for the pediatric population in Hungary.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So it's a really good question and a hot topic, by the way, because these days in Hungary started this therapy too. So it's not a common thing, it's rather a wow thing, but so in the University of Debrecen they started to use it. So and for example in our hospital, in the Heim Children's Hospital, in the gastroenterology department, there was one adolescent, by the way, who had a lot of recurrency, and for example for him it started to manage the fecal microbiota transplant. Yeah.
Is there any study on FMT and fidaxomicin?
Meta-analysis or
no,
comparing?
Like you know, like we're using FMT plus vancomycin.
Yep.
Has no one tried the two together, the new kid on the block and the best performing treatment?
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. If I remember well, in our pool there were not. But I think the reason of it, the fidaxomicin is a relative new antibiotic, so rather they compared with vancomycin, metronidazole, so the classic antibiotics. And if I remember well, there was one study which compared fidaxomicin and FMT, by the way, but mixed them, that's not yet.
This is probably just a question of time. One last question. I congratulate on your explanation of the league table. I could really follow that, and hopefully everyone else. There was one interesting thing that placebo outperforms.
Yeah, tolevamir. It's tolevamir.
So tolevamir basically, does this put you to a higher risk of C. diff? Does this mean that?
I don't really understand it yet. So we will have conversation about it with my supervisors, I think. But yeah, so it was a big surprise for me too, by the way. So to get placebo, that's better than an antibiotic. So yeah, I don't know the exact answer yet for it.
Do you have any data on adverse event rate or safety?
Yeah. So most of the studies here gave us the results. These are good. All of them gave us adverse events, but it's not severe. And all the articles gave us information. It's well tolerated, and it's a good therapy against C. diff. So yeah, in this form.
I would just like to ask, because fidaxomicin, FMT, etc., they are quite well known, but I have never heard a lot about antibodies, like as you mentioned. Can you tell me more, like what is the indication or availability of this treatment? Thank you.
So most of them, by the way, antibiotics, and it's really interesting because a few of them, so for example, the bacitracin and so on, they tried these antibiotics in the early 19th. So a lot of antibiotics here, I think the clinicians try to do anything with C. diff before the fecal microbiota transplant, and this is the reason it's not so well known, because it's not so effective like the others.